Did Christianity subvert the pagan power of Rome and drive its fall? The last 100 years of the Roman Empire may give us our answers, and the stars of the show will be the boomers of Rome. The boomers of Rome were the final generation before its collapse, who were born into a powerful empire with incredible wealth and an ancient tradition, yet they would fail to pass this on to their own children. The Roman boomers would have been born at the start of the 300s AD and have lived through Constantine legalizing Christianity. But Christianity at this moment would have only been about 10 to 15% of the empire, and the boomers still had plenty of power. But the Christians wanted it more and were hyper-aggressive. They were very dominant in cities, so they created a sort of cancel culture where they wouldn't give you a job if you were a pagan, or they'd threaten you if you don't convert that you'd lose status or lose endowments. Radical bishops would preach that pagan temples are sources of demonic worship, and they would set up nighttime raids by young Christian men who would go in and burn these temples down. It was much more violent than people think. By the end of the 300s, Emperor Theodosius shows up and harnesses this radical energy. He does the unthinkable and decrees in 391 AD that paganism is banned, all temples must be closed or destroyed, and the only legal religions are Christianity and Judaism. Now, the problem here is that people read this as a sign of Christian strength taking control of a degenerate and decadent empire. But only 17 years after Theodosius' decree, we see Rome fall under siege to the Goths. See, while all these purges were happening, the borders of Rome were wide open, and Emperor Honorius, who comes after Theodosius, kills one of his best generals out of paranoia, and the Goths march in and take over Rome. The pagans in the city of Rome chimp out. They say, listen, you've had your 17 years and we're basically about to get conquered. We need the pagan gods back. Since you've banned them, Rome is under threat of imploding. Legalize paganism. Let us sacrifice to the gods again. The situation is so bad that Pope Innocent at the time considers it. Just as this debate is taking place, Alaric says, listen, pay me loads of gold and I'll go away. The Roman Senate see this as an opportunity, and they take the main golden statue of victory that stood in the Senate house and they melt it down and use it to pay off Alaric. Alaric goes away and lifts the siege, but this seems to demoralize paganism. No one would ever try to revive it again. And unfortunately, Emperor Honorius doesn't end up paying Alaric the continued tribute, so Alaric chimps out 2 years later, and in 410 comes back and plunders Rome. For the first time in 800 years, the city of Rome gets sacked. This is only 19 years after the pagan gods were banned and Christianity was mandated. Rome would never recover from this. It would lead to a population implosion and finally the collapse of the empire later in the 5th century.